A global shutdown is coming and it's bound to affect people from all over the world. So it's also possible that it pushes the United States into a national power outage. In today's very fast-paced world, many of us use different mediums when it comes to communication. The existence of social media itself has opened so many avenues where people from all corners of the world can communicate, get in contact with other people without physically seeing each other. But what if all of this goes away? What if you can't open Facebook? What if you can't open Instagram, X, TikTok? What if you can't use messaging apps like iMessage, Telegram, and WhatsApp? Well, the fear now is that there's a real possibility that this happens in the very near future. And odds are, we already know who's going to be behind such a massive disruption to the entire world. Now, before I expose the details and all of this, I only ask you guys to do one thing. Take 1 second, hit the like button for the video. I totally appreciate it. Also want to thank you guys for always sharing these videos and for helping the channel reach 500,000 subscribers. Man, it's an amazing feat and we have so much more truth to share with you guys. So let's go ahead and get back into it. So the conflict between Israel and Hamas has many side effects, one of which is the clear obstruction of the global trade pathway through the Red Sea. With 12% of global trade being transported through these waters, it's very easy to see just how big of an impact it's going to have on consumers all around the world. The disruption has been led by Iran-backed Houthis that attack vessels that are going through the Red Sea. Now, besides China and Russia, it seems like any other nation that supports Israel has become fair game out there. But the problem doesn't end there. Rumors are now swirling about the possibility of a different attack that will also be focused in the region. And this is in line with what I've been talking about just a second ago. So here's a map of Egypt's fiber optic cable crossings. And for anybody who might be familiar, yes, this is directly connected to how our internet works. Right now, 17 to 30% of the world's population in terms of internet traffic goes through these cables. Now, some of you guys might be wondering, what do you mean by that? Doesn't the internet just kind of like travel through the air? Because our smartphones and our laptops are mostly wireless, right? Yes and no, so it's kind of not exactly the case. If these cables didn't exist, then most of our connections would be deemed useless. There's also a bigger picture to this, but I'm gonna get to that in a second. Now, these fiber optic cables that we're talking about, they're essential in maintaining communications between people as well as world leaders. It also allows communication between the military, and a lot of government data goes through these cables. A signal from fiber optic cables can travel around the world at 210,000 kilometers per hour. That is 70 times the speed of light. So yes, these cables, they can get information across the globe in an instant. They're also in charge of carrying more than 95% of the world's voice and data transmissions, and most of them are under the sea. I know, yeah. Much like that photo you just saw. Now, what's surprising to know is that these cables are poorly protected by international law. Now, just think about this for a second, comparing how important these cables are to how little protection they have. And then you would realize that a single major cable being cut could cause catastrophic results. This means communication just being completely halted. You wouldn't be able to contact loved ones who are halfway around the world. Google Maps wouldn't be able to show you where you need to go. You won't be able to access your money through your online banks, possibly. You might not even be able to access X, maybe Twitter, TikTok, or just kind of check and see what's going on. Which now begs the question, who would do such a thing? Well, some analysts are saying that it's possible that the Iran-backed Houthis could try and sabotage international internet cables in the Red Sea if Israel doesn't stop their attacks on Hamas. In fact, Yemeni telecom companies have already warned that a plan is already underway. So late last year, a Houthi-linked Telegram channel posted a map that showed the convergence of communications cables in the Red Sea, also in the Mediterranean Sea, the Arabian Sea, and the Persian Gulf. It also contained a very ominous message in relation to Yemen's strategic location. Analysts say that this is because Yemen is near a disproportionate number of international undersea internet cables, especially along its western coast where the Houthis have the greatest support. Now, do the Houthis have the motivation to disrupt the entire globe globe's internet connection? Yes. I mean, they've shown little to no remorse when it comes to attacking container ships that bring goods to people all over the world. However, do they have the means to carry out such an attack? Experts are saying no. Now, while they have access to advanced drones and missiles, they likely do not have the technological capabilities to reach the cables that are hundreds, if not thousands of meters underwater. At most, they would probably be able to target cables that are located in the shallow waters. Back in 2013, 3 divers were actually arrested in Egypt for trying to cut an undersea cable near the port of Alexandria. This cable provided much of the internet capacity between Europe and Egypt. So if the Houthis really wanted to, there are cables that they could probably get access to with equipment that's not all that hard to get. The Houthis have demanded that Israel stops its attacks on Hamas. It's the primary reason as to why they're still attacking ships out of the Red Sea. The reason why that they're attacking our ships is because our leaders continue to show support for Israel's war. These attacks, which have been met with American retaliation in Yemen, which has led to the Houthis to answer back. According to a spokesperson for the group, they're willing to use new tactics to stop the American-British aggression against Yemen. Is that a reference to attacking internet cables out in the Red Sea? Possibly. But we just can't close the door on something like this with such an unpredictable group. The important question now is, will they actually do it? Odds are that they probably won't be that reckless. This would also affect their own internet access. But even if they do manage to destroy communications between many different countries, the backlash that they would face will probably be very swift and to the point. Just think about if your own personal home internet system went down. You'd be up in arms. You'd be looking to call AT&T or Comcast or whoever you happen to use for internet access, and you would want it fixed immediately. Now just imagine if an entire country's internet went down. That won't go over well. Certainly not worldwide internet access being compromised. But here's something that many people don't realize. Some of you might say that, you could live without social media or any of these apps that use the internet. But were you aware that modern power grids rely very heavily on internet to coordinate power plants and electricity substations? It's not like the modern world is completely analog anymore. We're in a digital age right now, which means that an attack on these types of cables could be an attack on our critical infrastructure. So what does that mean then, right? Well, it means that a good chunk of the world could be reintroduced to the dark ages if this happens. Now, I understand that this sounds like an exaggeration, but the concern and the possibility of attacks to these cables is very real. And just to kind of really drive the point home here, guys, do you know about the Great Northeastern Blackout? So this happened way back in November 1965 when a blackout was caused by the tripping of a 230 kilovolt transmission line near Ontario, Canada. Now, this was recorded as one of the biggest power failures, just completely grid down blackout in history, as all of New York State, together with portions of 7 nearby states and parts of Canada, were just suddenly in the dark. Back then, 800,000 people in New York subways were suddenly stuck. Thousands more were stranded in many office buildings as elevators just also suddenly stopped at the same time. Around 30 million people were affected by this power outage. Now, just imagine that on a significantly bigger scale. And so this is why there's a lot of concern coming from the experts. But unless the Houthis can manage to procure equipment that's needed to deep dive into the ocean, chances are that this is not happening. But it pays to be aware about what's going on, right? And this is exactly why I'm here to inform you guys about these different possibilities every single day. So I think it's best to be prepared for all scenarios. Now, before I go, I just want to thank you guys so much for hitting the like button. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Y'all be safe.